Hi, I'm Helen and this is Unbound Pottery Studio. You're now officially part of our pottery community and I'm really excited to have you here. So by now you will have received one of our pottery boxes and I'm really pleased that you did. You're gonna love it. We are gonna make something beautiful and it's gonna be something you can keep and be proud of for many, many, many years. So let's get to the box and see what's inside. So here's the box. Let's open it up. So inside the box we've got contact details, tips and reminders, your project guide for what you're making today, and the return instructions of how to get your piece fired. So here we are. These are all the items that you've received in your pottery box. So your box is used to return your finished piece back to Unbound Studio. If you're a single-use customer, please return your tools with your box. If you're a subscription customer, you get to keep these items to create your own pottery toolbox collection. Now, let's get making. So I start by laying out a tea towel or an old pillowcase or an old bit of sheet and giving it a light spray with water just to make it slightly damp. Now the clay is already formed, so I don't need to knead the clay. I'm just going to place it down. I might give it a bit of a slap. I'm then going to choose my pro forma. So a pro forma is something that we make a pot around. Today, I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to lay it down on my mat, face down, and I'm going to get my tissue and just lay my tissue over and tuck it under. So we'll put that to one side. So we're going to roll out the clay to about 1 centimetre. Okay. So now we get the bowl with a piece of tissue over the top. Now I'm going to lift up my clay. Be careful to not let it tear. And then place the clay over the bowl. And let gravity just allow the clay to drop down. I'm then going to just gently use my hands to stretch the clay over my pro forma bowl. Brilliant. I'm going to pick up my cutting tool. So this is the one that's pointy with a thin edge. And I'm going to cut around the bowl. It doesn't matter if this isn't perfect. And then all this clay can just go to the side. So this is the start of my bowl. So now I've got less clay around the outside, I'm going to tuck the edges of my bowl in a little more. and then again trim the edges so that I've got a nice round shape. So now it's time to add the botanical imprints. I'm using little oxeye daisies for mine. Now the centre is going to show nice and clearly when I imprint it, but the petals are very fine and they're unlikely to show. So I'm just going to snip off the stem. And then press my flower into the clay. Now I don't want to press the centre too deeply because it may well go all the way through the clay and that will cause cracks in the clay. The same for anything with deep veins. So if you were using a leaf with very strong veins, be very careful not to push them all the way through the clay or even to point where the clay is very thin, because it will cause the clay to split. Now, as you can see, I have pressed flowers in all the way round. And then, again, using a pointy edge tool, I'm just going to pull them out. So do this carefully. It doesn't matter too much if any petals are left in the clay at this stage, but let's try to remove them. So there we go. And I think I'm going to add some leaves. So I've just nipped outside and grabbed some leaves. If you notice, these leaves have got quite a good vein pattern in them. So this will show nicely in the clay. So let's just go ahead and stick these in the gaps. And let's just pull those out. Can you see the pretty veins that are appearing as I pull them out? So the next important thing is I'm going to write my name on the bottom of the pot. Helen. So now I will know when my pot's fired who my pot belongs to. So now we leave the pot to harden for maybe an hour or two. Okay, so I've let the clay harden for an hour or two. And now when I turn the pot over, the clay won't just fall over and sink, or at least I hope it won't. So let's turn my pot over, carefully pull out my Proforma pot and remove the tissue paper. So here's my pot. You can see the nice imprinted botanical details that I've put in, and it's now firm enough not to fall over. But let's tidy up this edge. So I've got a little jam jar of water. I'm just going to dip my fingers in and wetten that rim. So this is just a regular butter knife that everyone has in their cutlery drawer. It's not sharp. I'm not going to hurt my fingers. So I'm just going to take my knife and take the very top of my pot off to get it nice and smooth. So with your tool with a fancy edge, you might want to press a pattern going around the rim of your pot. There we are. So this now sits on the shelf for a day or two until it's dried out to the point where I can paint it. So as you can see now, my pot is reasonably hard and firm and ready to paint. So you just use these paints like regular paints, but when they fire, they will come out brighter. So now I leave this to dry for about a week or 2 weeks before I'm going to package it back up in the box and send it back to Unbound Pottery to go in the kiln for firing.